What is going on, everybody? It's the Frost, and we're here for AEW on TNT review for October the 7th, 2020. It is 30 years of Jericho. Drink it in, man. Many people chiming in tonight, congratulating Chris Jericho's for a 30-year career. 2 title matches tonight. Jericho and Jake Hager versus Serpentico and Luther was the main event of the show, and we started off with our first title match, Brian Cage versus Will Hobbs. 2 big beefy men going against each other for the FTW Championship. So, yeah, I've been looking forward to this match since it was announced. I'm still waiting for Lance Archer versus Brian Cage. That match better be happening by the time we get the full gear or a little bit after that. I don't care. I want that match. This was great. These 2 went out there, big boys doing big boy things, big boys doing cruiserweight things. Nice match here. Cage with an F5, cover 2, release German suplex on Hobbs. He's back up and hits Cage with one. Both men up, double clotheslines. They trade strikes in the middle of the ring. Hobbs hits Last Will and Testament, which is his double A spine buster. Only gets a 2. He goes to the top rope, frog splash, miss. Drill claw by Brian Cage, and Brian Cage retains the FTW Championship. Heavy, hard-hitting match. Both of these guys just showed how, you don't have to be a cruiserweight to be able to do cruiserweight things. You don't have, they are on the level of a Keith Lee when it comes to being big boys, being able to do high athletic moves. The fact that Will Hobbs went up for a frog splash, I know he missed, but still, it would have, when I said this thing earlier myself when I was watching this, I'm like, when WCW back in the day had the motto, WCW Monday Night Show, where the big boys play, I don't think they meant guys like Will Hobbs and Brian Cage to exist, because these are some big boys and they are just wrecking house. I hope this is something that goes on beyond this match. We see these guys feuding over the world title one of these days. A Will Hobbs, Brian Cage feud for the AEW World Championship is something that, honestly, I could look forward to. Post-match, Taz gets in the mic as Starks heads to the ring. Taz tells him not to touch Hobbs and says that was an impressive performance. He says he fought his ass off, but it's time for him to decide he either join Team Taz or Stark and Cage will beat him up. Darby Allin's music plays, and Allin heads out to the ring with his skateboard. Cage and Starks get out of the ring as he stares them down. Taz barks at Allin, says one day he'll learn not to stick his nose in Team Taz's business. Could you imagine if Will Hobbs joined Brian Cage and Ricky Starks? The domination that Team Taz could have. Now this is probably going to lead to a tag team match later, and we'll see what happens when we get to that list of what's happening next week besides the world title match. Rockstar Slash sends his congrats to Jericho for being in wrestling for 30 years, says he's had no idea it would have been that long. Dennis Miller notes Jericho is a good cat and funny, along with wrestlers Hiroshi Tanahashi, which is interesting. Hiroshi Tanahashi, who has the New Japan Pro Wrestling logo behind him as he's doing this testimonial. Let the speculation begin. As we know, if you've been following the news, I don't know his actual name, but the guy who was in charge of New Japan Pro Wrestling, the president of New Japan Pro Wrestling, recently resigned. And that led to a lot of people speculating if we get somebody in there who would love to work with AEW, could we see AEW stars, which of course we've seen AEW stars like Jon Moxley and Chris Jericho over in New Japan Pro Wrestling last year after AEW started. But could we see New Japan Pro Wrestling stars in AEW? That is something this is going to be a speculation that everyone's going to have now that Hiroshi Tanahashi made an appearance in video form, but made an appearance on TV on Wednesday night. It's going to be interesting to see if that does come down, which New Japan Pro Wrestling wants to get their foot into the United States. They do. They even launched, or was going to launch, New Japan Pro Wrestling of America, but that seemed to be put to the back burner because of COVID-19. Maybe them joining forces with AEW will be the way to get a foothold into the United States. They could work with AEW for a year. Honestly, they could. They could work with AEW for a year and then break that off. And they will get people who were watching AEW because of the New Japan stars, and when they break away, say they get a TV deal in the United States after that year of working with AEW, you're going to have people who were watching AEW. It's like, oh, this is on right now, I'm going to go watch that. So it would be dumb for the AEW really to do it, because if New Japan Pro Wrestling is trying to get their own foothold, it doesn't really see a benefit other than a ratings boost for now. I mean, short term it works for AEW, but long term it works more for New Japan Pro Wrestling if everything goes the way it should. We also hear Bully Ray makes a quick appearance by having some bubbly, but doesn't say anything. Honestly, I think that's going to be Vince McMahon blowing a gasket. How dare Bully? How dare Bubba? How dare Mark show up on AEW? He's supposed to be one of ours, damn it. I can see Vince McMahon blowing a gasket just for that one. Lance Archer talks about this isn't the first time they're met in the ring, referring to the Texas Death Match in New Japan Pro Wrestling, which you should go back and watch that. It was at Wrestle Kingdom earlier this year. That was a hell of a match. Archer says Moxley may have beat some other badass in AEW, but there's nothing compared to him. The two will meet next week for the title. Thank goodness that Archer is out of the woods when it comes to COVID-19, and we will have that match. I don't know what you're going to do for that match next week. That's going to be interesting. FTR versus the TH2, I don't know, I don't like this fucking Brush with Greatness 20-minute tag team title match thing they're doing. TH2 gets a title shot? Why? I can understand why they gave the Brush with Greatness to SCU last week, because SCU, as has been mentioned, were the first ever AEW tag team champions. So if they want to cement their legacy beating them, that's fine. But then it's TH2, I know have been gone because of COVID, majority of the reason. They both live in Mexico apparently or something. But they haven't done anything to really deserve even a Brush with Greatness. This match was okay. I don't know what it is, but it just felt like there was something off in this match. I don't know if it was chemistry issues. And of course, apparently Jack Evans has been just coming back from injury, so that could be the problem too. He's still getting his legs out from it, and getting his legs back underneath of him. But it just felt like something was off with this match. Tiger Driver colored the very two suit count. Evans is put up on the top rope. Howard nails a superplex. Wheeler then bit the big splash cover. 1, 2, 3. The old Power and Glory finisher. It also tells you something when they don't beat them with the Good Night Express or the Spike Power Driver. They win with the old Power and Glory. Post-match, Nick says FTR is pretty good. They finally realize the cameraman and give him a double super kick. FTR looks on, and we eventually see FTR is someone in some Photoshop hot dog outfits with the AEW World titles around their waist. Best friends head out, and Trenton asks FTR if they get the joke. Weenies. Yeah, you get it? Weenies? Chuck Taylor is wearing a shirt with the same photo on it. Taylor says what's not a joke is best friends are the number one contenders next week. Taylor says the two teams will meet in the ring for the titles. They go to fight. FTR bails out of the ring without their titles. Best friends hold them up for a moment, then slide them out to the champions and give each other a big hug. So, yeah, this one makes sense. Because, if I'm correct, the last time I looked at the rankings, the best friends are the number one contenders, so they should be getting a title match next. What does this mean for Full Gear? Obviously, FTR is not losing the tag team titles. They just won them at All Out. This is going to be their third title defense, so they're going to be... Here's the thing. Are they going to be defending their titles every single week? I think that's a stupid idea. I know they're doing this whole Brush with Greatness, but the tag team champions should not be defending their titles every week on TV. The TNT Championship was made for that. The tag team championships should be defended at pay-per-views majority of the way, just like the world title, just like the women's title. Very rarely on TV, but this will be the third tag team title match in a row. I think they're overdoing it. MJF sends a video message to Chris Jericho about being around for 30 years. He recalls the story of meeting Jericho in AEW at an after party last year. Jericho told MJF, "You really got something. Keep studying and take a little bit of from others in wrestling." MJF said he pointed right at Jericho, and Chris gave him a smile. Shaquille O'Neal sends a message to Jericho. He says, "Legends is an understatement. Gene Simmons wishes him a happy 30 years. Don Callis says Jericho hasn't changed in all the 30 years he's known him. Lars Ulrich says Jericho has been kicking him ass for 30 years and 30 years of being super cool. DDP calls Jericho my brother and sends him congrats. So we're getting a lot of those. And of course, you were going to have, Chris Jericho definitely is in that upper echelon of talent in the wrestling business that he transcends professional wrestling. He is a legend. He is also a rock star. By the way, I didn't know that he's not the only one in a actual rock band, which we'll talk about that if we ever get to it. But yeah, I found that out this past week, and I thought that's pretty cool. But yeah, Jericho is just one of those guys that just this entire testimonial on this night shows you why all those people who bitched and moaned and complained last year about Jericho being the first ever AEW World Champion need to eat a big bag of crow, because this guy is a big reason why AEW was able to weather those first few months of being fresh and new as the world champion. Hype video tonight's dog collar match. Uninnocent says Cody just said yes to the match without thinking, and that could cost him his career. Brody Lee with Anna Jay and John Silver versus Cody with Brandy Rhodes and Arn Anderson. Special guest in the house is Greg the Hammer Valentine. Why is he the special guest? Oh, it's just the fact that his dog collar match with the late Roddy Piper is the most famous dog collar match ever. It was brutal, it was bloody, it was horrifying to watch. I haven't watched it completely, but I've seen the clips of it, and my God, is that match brutal. This was brutal. What can I say about that? It could have went a little bit longer, I think, but this match was brutal. Cody heads to the top after he gets punched by Lee. Lands a nice moonsault for a 2 count. Lee with a thrust kick tries for another. Cody blocks it. Crossroads cover. Lee kicks out at 1. Lee lands a powerbomb on the chain. That had to hurt. Cover 2. The two head to the floor. Cody pulls Lee into the ring post. They both roll into the ring. Cody heads for the second rope, wraps the chain, but Lee pops him and hits a superplex off the second rope. Lee with a release dragon suplex and is looking to finish Cody off. Discus lariat, no. Twisting suplex by Cody. He then puts the chain around Lee's face and tightens it down. He throws elbows on Lee's head. Crossroads, 1, 2, 3. And new and the first ever 2-time champion in AEW history, Cody Rhodes wins the TNT Championship. I'm sure TNT's drama, the @TNT drama Twitter page, is happy to see Cody be the TNT champion again. And 2, did it really need to be Cody winning this? I don't, this is one of those toss-ups, should Cody win and win back the TNT championship, or should Brody Lee keep it for a little bit longer, maybe another couple more weeks, maybe in a month more, and defending it ever so often? Because with Cody, it looks like we're probably just going to go back to what we did before with the open challenge, getting to see talent from outside the AEW, which is fine. I would like to see. I mean, we got to see Warhorse rising, and we saw all these other talents. Eddie Kingston got signed because of this. Ricky Starks got signed from doing this. So maybe this is like a gut check thing, where Cody will be the guy who takes this championship and runs with it again and gets more exposure for talent, because yes, indies are coming back. We've seen independents. I mean, hell, the United Wrestling Network is a thing on Fight TV I've been watching. Maybe we'll see some guys from there taking on Cody. I don't know. Dark Order comes out after the match to check on their leader. The Nightmare Finlay does the same for the new champion. Tony Schiavone talks to Cody after the match. He said there's no feeling on earth to perform in front of the live crowd. Said he's sticking with the fans until the very end, despite some saying he should go dark after changing up his look. He says this is his life's work. He's not pandering. Next week, he wants to defend the TNT Championship. Tony asked against who, and said that's a good question. And out strolls Orange Cassidy. Orange gives Cody a thumbs up, and Cody returns it back. So we're getting Cody Rhodes versus Orange Cassidy. It should be a fun match for people to watch. My only problem is Orange Cassidy just had a TNT Championship match 2-3 weeks ago. With Cody being champion, I want to see people outside the company get this open challenge. I want to see people who we don't expect. Like we got a Ricky Starks, Eddie Kingston. Warhorse was questioned and asked by a lot of people, and we got that match. I want to see people that we are like the mainstream audience doesn't know. That's what I want the TNT Championship to be. What we see talent going after this title that we as fans do not know, and we get introduced to new talents more than ever before. Commentary announcers Warlord, Colt Cabana, and Hangman Page have been added to the upcoming tournament. That leaves two names. Who those two names are going to be, I have no idea. Why Colt Cabana out of all people? That's kind of weird. Backstage, Kenny Omega talks with Alec Marvez about the upcoming tournament. He talks about Page being in the tournament. Kate says, "Why not? This will be the premier tournament in AEW." Omega says, "Don't be surprised when he hands is raised, and he'll beat whoever the hell the champion is by that time." He mentions Page an awful lot more in his promo. Clearly, Page is on his mind. Obviously, I see these two end up I see Kenny Omega getting screwed out of this by Hangman Page in the second round, because Hangman Page is probably going to lose in the first round. And then we're going to lead to Full Gear between these two. This match between Kenny Omega and Hangman Page is going to happen at Full Gear, mark my words. Big Swole versus Serena Deeb. This was a short, sweet match. Both missed some strikes. Swole with a big headbutt to the chest, cover 2. Deeb tries to drop Swole, no. Elbow struck by Swole and then uppercut. Deeb counters with one of her own. Swole hits the axe kick. Headbutt to the chest. Rolling elbow. 1, 2, 3. And that's that. Big Swole wins. As at a bar, AEW World Champion Jon Moxley says he hasn't had much time to celebrate after winning his last big match. He's been around long enough to know eventually the champion goes down. Moxley says one doesn't beat Archer, one survives him. He says he barely did the last time they met in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Moxley says he knows every time he hands the title to the referee, he may not touch it again. He flips a coin. What happens on the 14th? Maybe Archer wins, maybe he wins. Moxley says he's not laying down for Archer though. Archer is going to have to take the title off his dead body. It's like you always say, Lance, everybody dies. Also announced next week, Melo and Sabian with Carmella Ford will be in action. More guests for Jericho, Lance Storm, Kevin Smith, Eli Roth, Gabriel Iglesias, Chavo Guerrero Jr., Steel Panther, Ultimo Dragon, and Paul Stanley. And then we get to our main events. Chris Jericho and Jake Hager versus Sammy Guevara, Ortiz, and Santa. With Sammy Guevara, Ortiz, and Santa versus Chaos Project, Luther, and Serpentico. Reason this match is happening is because Luther has been friends with Jericho for almost 30 years, since the year after Jericho first started. They've been friends. They beat the hell out of each other for about 2-3 years, and they went their separate ways. Jericho became Le Champion. Luther dominated the indie scenes, but he's never been on the national stage as a big name. And this is Jericho giving him a main event on TV. So you have this match. Doesn't go... It's an okay match. Luther, being Luther, Jericho, and all them. Jericho hits sent into the ropes, tries for the juice effect. Luther lands a German suplex instead. Diving knee drop by Serpentico on Jericho. Hager finally gets involved and breaks up the pin. Serpentico and Hager out to the floor. Jericho calls for the bat. Luther catches it. Whacks Jericho. Kick to the midsection, cover 2. Sammy gets on the apron. Luther knocks him off. Jericho hits Luther with the Judas effect. 1, 2, 3. And of course, Jericho and Hager are winning. I know they're building them up to be challengers for the tag team champions, but do you think that we really need to see FTR versus Jericho and Hager? No. That could be like if the Young Bucks beat... I don't know how you're going to do that, though. I just don't see Jericho and Hager winning the tag team titles or even challenging FTR. Maybe it's going to be like a multi-tag team match, which I really don't want to see. Post-match, Jericho gets the mic. He said, hey, listen, 30 years in this business. Thanks for all you. I just want to say, out comes MJF. He says this isn't about him to cut his music. Warlord walks out with something under a pink sheet. MJF says he respects Jericho and wants to be part of the celebration and gives him a countdown. And it's Clownico Le Clown. Wow, that's just terrible. Crowd boos. The clown is holding amateur another gift, and Jericho takes it. MJF tells Sammy he's getting his jacket soon. MJF says next week he has a career-defining announcement and wants Jericho to be there. Jericho opens the gift, and it's a portrait of MJF. Jericho then smashes it over the clown's head and hammers him in with the Judas effect. I hate clowns, and don't ever interrupt me again. You understand me? The two stare each other down for a moment. They both laugh. MJF says, you almost had me. Jericho thanks the crowd. Out back comes a huge part of the roster. Credits roll, and it's Chris Jericho for every single role, including all the camera operators, commentary, jokes about it, and the show comes to a close. And that was 30 years celebration of Chris Jericho. Definitely an interesting show, something worth watching. AEW just hitting their stride. The consistency for some things, I'm going to be honest, it feels like Miro has been, it's only been a few weeks, but it just feels like they've dropped the ball with Miro so far. I could be wrong, but we'll see. Hopefully after the whole wedding thing's over with, whenever the fuck that's going to be, that Miro can go on to be the guy that we know he should be. 30 years for Jericho, that's crazy. And not too many professional wrestlers have a long 30-year career. I mean, that as long and as high profile as Chris Jericho. Usually when you're in 30 years, you fall off. Jericho is going to get there eventually, but maybe he'll go on the commentary before that. Next week should be an interesting show. We have Lance Archer versus Jon Moxley. The tag team title is going to be on the line, and I fully expect Will Hobbs and Darby Allin versus Ricky Starks and Brian Cage. But that is your AEW on TNT review. Hit that subscribe button, comment down below, like or dislike this video. Find me on Twitter at The France Club. Find me on twitch.tv/The France Club. And find me on Instagram at The France Club. And I'll see you guys Friday for another scintillating episode of SmackDown on Fox, the first night of the draft. Until then, my name is France, and I'll see you guys later.